All right, joining us now, former Republican Senator Tom Coburn of Oklahoma has out with a new book, Smashing the D.C. Monopoly, using Article 5 to restore freedom and stop runaway government. Great to have you on the set with us. Good to see you.
Great to be with you.
How are you doing?
I'm doing great.
Fantastic. Tell us about the book. There's a different article I want to ask you about at some point, but go ahead, Article 5.
I left Washington because I didn't see we could fix it there. And our founders gave us this opportunity for state legislatures to re-exert their authority to restore the Constitution to its original intent. And so what we've done is we have an application under Article 5 of the Constitution that has three components. One, forcing a balanced budget using generally accepted accounting principles. Number two, limiting the power and scope of the federal government, and number three, limiting the terms of both appointed and elected members of Congress. And if you do those things, then we can actually rebalance and more power back to the people. What we've done is we've lost it. As a U.S. Senator, as a congressman, most of your people couldn't see you or talk to you. As a state representative, they can. So bringing the power back to where the people actually have an input in it will actually solve some of the problems that are facing our country.
So how do you do it?
How do you do it? You have to have 34 states agree through state legislators to make an application for an Article 5 convention. That application has to be the same from all of those 34. Essentially the same, and then all they do is meet and then make recommendations to the states in terms of changing it. Ask yourself why we're not fixing Social Security. Why are we not fixing Medicare's unfunded liabilities? Why do we continue to have $400 billion in waste, fraud, and duplication every year, or $145 billion in improper payment?
Well, let's talk about the first two. Nobody wants to do it. Nobody wants to talk about it. Donald Trump saying he's not going to touch it. Republicans have shown no more bravery towards it than Democrats.
Absolutely, and that's because the career politicians aren't going to solve it, and our founders knew that. They never intended for people to serve a lifetime in public service in Washington, and therefore the next election trumps anything else. And I don't mean to make a point, but it's more important. So how do we actually muzzle the alligators in the swamp? And that's by reducing their authority back to what it was originally intended to be.
And do you think that gets us, because you were on this when you were in the Senate as well, that people focus on non-mandatory spending, the easy stuff. They nibble around the edges and they go after NIH and things like that when they don't tackle the real drivers of deficit. Does this get us closer to that? Will you have people have the courage to take that on?
Well, they'll have to. Actually, what career politicians need is an excuse to have a spine. And so if you have a balanced budget amendment with generally accepted account, then they can go home and say, I had to. I had to. We have to, here's the balanced budget amendment. And it's an 85% issue in America across both parties. This is not a partisan movement. This is about restoring. Think about this. What's going to happen to the millennials? You talk about people falling through the cracks. The average millennial is going to have to pay back $1.7 million over the next 50 years. That's over $30,000 a year. And they've already have a declining median income. And their standard.
When you say they're going to have to pay back, you're talking about because all of the unfunded liabilities.
The unfunded liabilities plus debt now is $144 trillion. People don't know what a billion is. If you make $40,000 a year, you have to work 25 years to make $1 million. To make $1 billion, you have to work 25,000 years. Now think about it. Now we know what $1 billion is. The average American having to work 25,000 years, and that's just pocket change to career politicians.
And we have $1 trillion debt.
Well, do you think the waste problem in Washington is actually getting even worse? You were famous for the waste report, where you would chronicle the wacky things, the truly wacky things that our government would spend money on. But it seems like it's still just spiraling out of control. And we have Republicans controlling both houses, a Republican president, and you have the president tweeting about wanting to put more money into health care spending.
I think it's a symptom and not the disease. The disease is failure to address the real problems of our country. Our founders gave us a way to do that. If you want to figure out how to do that, go to conventionofstates.com, read this book. What it'll do is it'll take away your depression, because then it'll enlighten you so you will know that there is a way to actually solve the problems. You won't have to pay attention to all the garbage that's going on in Washington, all the big back and all that is there that doesn't accomplish anything except make individual politicians try to look good.
Are we, though, seeing an era of big government Republicans again?
Oh, I don't know
hopeful
that. I think you're seeing is mass confusion and lack of leadership, whether it's at the White House, the Senate, or the House. You know, what Americans want is problem solved. And they don't want to hear why you can't. They want to see it done. Here's a solution that is as big as the problems that we have.
What's causing the mass confusion right now?
Lack of leadership.
Okay, so where's the lack of, if you had to name a leader in the White House, the Senate, or the House, who would it be?
If I wanted a leader?
Yeah, if you got what you got. Who are
I'd put Richard Burr in charge of everything in the Senate.
Okay.
You know, him and Ben Sass and a few others, you know, they're not interested in partisan gamemanship. They're interested in fixing our country.
But it's slim pickings.
Yeah, it is.
You've got the unique perspective of being both a doctor and a former United States Senator as we talk about health care. You've seen what passed through the House. You saw the Rose Garden ceremony that the president led. Are we in this country going to live with Obamacare as it exists today, or will the Senate be able to cobble something together that passes through?
I don't know. I think that's all superficial. Here's what's important, is you're never going to solve health care until you have real competition out there. If you had real competition, where you had price transparency, where people could see what things cost, then you could lower the cost of health care 30% tomorrow. We've proven that. We know that. There's things out there that will direct people to the cheapest MRI, to give you the best deal. Outcomes published that says, here's your surgery, we guarantee whatever your complications are, we'll pay for it, and we'll do it for a fourth of what you can get it done somewhere else. Real competition with real quality parameters. Americans know how to buy everything.
Right, but so why is it that healthcare is one of the few things that has absolutely no market forces in it? So if I go if I say, oh, my head's been hurting for a couple of weeks, and I keep pushing my doctor to get an MRI, I get the MRI. He goes, fine. And I walk away after the MRI. I don't know how much that costs.
That's right. You didn't.
Why?
But you're not paying for it.
I know.
Here's the great example. Amish fathers. Go look at them. They buy their health care for about a third of what you pay, because they go and find the best price. They go and work a deal, and they actually are paying for it. So therefore, they buy great quality at a lower price. All we need to do is copy what they're doing, and we can actually solve our problem.
But why can't we?
We can reward excellence, which we should be, because if you have a price but you're better, you'll get a better price. If you're worse, people won't come to you. That's the other problem, is you have self-referrals into this now non-competitive hospital vertical and horizontal integration that needs to be busted up. But you can't do, it doesn't matter what the Republicans do or the Democrats do. Until you have price transparency, you're not going to lower any cost of health care.
But can't Republicans push for this price transparency?
Sure. They could put it in a reconciliation bill. And if that's the only thing they pass, that would solve health care tomorrow.
All right, the book is Smashing the D.C. Monopoly. Tom Coburn, thank you so much. It's great to see you.
Good to see you.
God
bless you.
Good luck with the book.
Sign the petition at cosaction.com and get as many of your friends and family to do the same. With your full address, your state legislators will know that you really are their constituents in their district. Our success depends on you, so we're inviting you to be part of history. Let's invoke the constitutional solution that's as big as the problem.